Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesday. You might notice my background is a little bit different this time, a little and a lot cleaner. I am at the Fall Nick Conference in Austin, Texas, and I'm working off a little bit different computer, so I've got my hands a little bit tied. I've got Kyle and Jessica with me from Cornell Communications. I guess it's Cornell Technology now, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And I just, before we start our conversation, I just want to say, Jessica, I'm so sorry when I heard about your dad passing. He was a good friend. He was a huge, huge force in the industry, and I know you'll do an amazing thing to carry on his legacy. Legacy is something I'm thinking about. You probably heard the last week we announced that I sold my company, and that's part of a legacy thing, and we'll be talking more about that soon. And so before we get started, this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Jessica, Kyle, let's actually start by having you do introductions. I'm going to go with you first, Jessica.
So I'm Jessica Pearson. I have been working for Cornell for about 20 years. I started in the back, worked my way up, and I really love this company. My dad did not start it, so it was started by a couple of veterans. They thought that they could do nurse call better, and he really had a passion for the industry. So I'm really hoping that I can continue that passion and make it better.
Terrific. And Kyle?
Yeah, my name is Kyle Keeker. I'm the vice president here at Cornell Technologies. I've actually just celebrated my 10th year with Cornell. I've been in the senior care industry, going on 20 years. Also did some work in hospitals as well, all centered around technology, of course. So very familiar with how we can use technology to give better care to our residents. So I'm really excited to be here today. And like Jessica said, I mean, I love this company. I actually used Cornell products when I worked for some other senior communities. So for me to be able to come over to the other side, I guess, was really exciting for me.
That's cool. So let's talk a little bit about what Cornell does, where your specialties are. As you know, emergency call systems have, in some sense, they've evolved. They seem like they've evolved a lot. On the other hand, it seems like they haven't evolved at all. And so let's just talk a little bit about your technology and kind of how you approach the emergency care sort of world.
Well, I will take that. So yeah, our main platform. Well, first of all, Cornell's been doing nurse call for quite a few years. I know our original nurse call panel was developed back in the 70s, which we still sell that one because it just works. But it's pretty basic. So what we wanted to do is to kind of build off of that, make it more than just nurse call. So we have this platform called Inform. And what Inform is, it's an activity and communications platform for caregivers and staff to respond to the needs of residents and like to do it immediately. So as you think about the original nurse call, with the dome lights in the hallway and maybe a panel at the nurse's station, you had to see those things in order to be able to, know that residents needed you. So what we did is we went a step further and said, hey, let's make your staff mobile, your caregivers mobile. So what it does is they actually have these new tools and features now that they can carry around on a mobile device. And that way they can, respond to the residents immediately. So we can track in real time, how long is it taking for them to respond to the resident, right down to how long were they in the resident's room, assisting the resident with what they needed. And then what did they actually do while they were in there? So what did the resident really need? And caregivers can actually communicate with the residents even before they go into the room. So we have a two-way communication station that we can put in the resident's room, and they can actually call into the resident's room after they, push their button or pull their cord and say, hey, Mrs. Smith, is there something that you need, to find out how immediate that is. Do they need to grab something before they go to the room? So it's really also making the staff more efficient as well. So
go ahead,
with
Jessica.
that staff efficiency, the staff also takes responsibility for the call through our app. So you don't have 5 caregivers going to one room and no caregivers going to another room when there's 2 calls that come in. The caregivers know that call has been taken responsibility for, so then they can go on and do their additional tasks that need to get done.
So I think that the call systems are one of those things for senior living operators that are really, everybody, you have to have one, but people sort of tend to look at it and think it's one of those things you have to spend money on. And I've always been fascinated with the idea that perhaps, and it sounds like you're moving in this direction rather than sort of seeing that as like, I don't know, probably a terrible example, but it's what comes off the top of my head. I mean, you have to have things like chairs and trash cans and those kinds of things to operate, but they're not very interesting. They are just sort of almost part of the hassle factor that you've got to get through. And so it sounds like what you're talking about is taking this sort of basic piece of furniture and turning it into something that's a productivity tool that maybe isn't, I don't know, even a marketing tool. So I think that becomes super exciting. Have you been able to actually track any sort of productivity improvements or those kinds of things with the tool? What are you hearing from your owners about who are using it?
Well, it's really, even from a staffing perspective, sometimes they may think that they need to have full staff on all 3 shifts so they can actually look at, again, staffing is related to how many residents do you have, but do you have staff that maybe are not getting as many calls on second and third shift? And so is there something else that they should be doing during that time because they have fewer calls happening? So that management can look at the number of calls that are coming in and be able to say, okay, you've got staff that maybe have way too much time on their hands and maybe can be doing other things,
So as you look at sort of the call technology, where do you see it going from here?
Well, for me, I can see our call system kind of becoming a full business management type device where it's not just tracking calls. It's also looking at what Kyle was saying with the staffing. It's also, we have something where if somebody needs to go to a doctor's appointment or they're going to get picked up by a family member, or if you want people to start going to more of like the activities, you can actually put that into the system. So that way the caregivers know what additional things that they need to be doing besides just answering those calls. And it really helps the whole resident experience. And then they have the reports so family members know what's going on. So then family members can kind of trust, hey, I do know that my family members being taken care of. I do know that Steve, in your instance, they're getting their showers or they're not getting their showers and the reason why they didn't get their shower that day.
Yeah, so those are really important issues in my mind. It sounds like you heard my stories of having my stepfather in a building and not getting the showers he's supposed to. So it's kind of a pet peeve for me. I think that's super important. So does it tie into electronic health records, those kinds of things?
So we do have a minimal tie-in with electronic health records. The problem that we're having is the electronic health records systems are changing so quickly too. So keeping that tie-in has been a little bit of a struggle. But we do allow it to push information into the health record system, depending on what the reason code was.
Got it. Okay. So as you sort of look at not just the nurse call, which is what you're focused on, but as you look at sort of the broader world of technology in senior living, what are you seeing out there that excites you? And well, I'm going to start with that and then I'll go to my next question. Kyle, we'll start with you and then jump to you, Jessica.
Yeah, I would say, there's so much home automation that's out there right now. I mean, I even think about like before I get home, sometimes if it's too cold or too hot, I can go on my phone and turn my thermostat up or down. I can set my, sensors so that if I get out of bed in the middle of the night, lights turn on. I mean, just all this home automation stuff it's booming out there. And it seems like they're coming up with more and more of like, okay, your coffee maker will, turn on if it's, too hot, or it won't turn on if it's too hot in the house, but your ice maker will turn. I mean, just all these really great, like the Internet of Things right now with all the home automation stuff, I think is really you're gonna see it. And you already have started seeing it more in the senior living space.
Yeah, Jessica, thoughts on sort of technology and where we're going?
So to kind of build off of what Kyle was saying, I am very much so about quality of life over quantity of life, so to speak. But I like with the automation, you can have it where, let's say the courtyard is open, but only when it's nice out or only during certain times. Yeah. So caregivers don't have to be unlocking and locking the doors. They can just trust that that's going to happen, and then the residents can enjoy those spaces all throughout the day without having to have a caregiver go and unlock it for them.
So I've got this dream of technology, and I've talked about it before, but I'm going to throw it to you. So maybe I had better stop and ask this other question. Are you doing anything with AI yet?
We are. I couldn't specifically tell you what they're working on right now. I mean, we have an amazing team of software developers led by an amazing leader, Alper, and they're always coming up with new and better ways to do things that we didn't even think about. And that is one of the things that we're looking into is how can our system even evolve on its own? We don't even have to tell it; it's just going to know to change this or that based on what's happening in that specific community.
Yeah, I think that, as I look at AI, I think that the challenge is that it can do so much that it becomes hard to know where to go and how do you actually plug it in. I was following a thread, not a senior living thread, about AI. So maybe you saw the story. I think it was Salesforce laid off like half of their customer support people and is replacing it with AI. And it's caused a lot of debate. Mostly people are really negative about it. I'm actually probably more enthusiastic about it because I think that from my perspective, if I'm a consumer and I need support, I don't actually care whether it's a human or AI if it gives me the answers. And I guarantee you that you've had the same experience that I have, where you've had humans who were giving you support and the support was terrible, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's possible that AI could actually know more and do a better job than humans. And so I'm more supportive. But one of the people, one of the comments that really caught my eye is that somebody said, "Oh, I paid for ChatGPT for 3 months, and I just think it's worthless. It's just a toy. It's just junk." And it sort of made me smile. It sort of made me sad. And I actually responded saying, well, it clearly means that you don't understand how AI works and how to use it. I was talking to somebody last evening here yesterday afternoon, and they asked me, so how often do you use, how many times a day do you use AI? And I stopped and thought about it. And there's some days I use it a lot and some days not so much, but I'm guessing I probably do 20 or 30 queries to my AI, one of my AI tools, directly 20 or 30 times a week. I use it a lot and I get a lot of it. I get things done. I don't. And so but I think that figuring out where to use it is really good. So for instance, it seem like it might be really cool to be able to take all your reports, use AI and say, okay, here are some people who seem to be having declining condition, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, do you, if you were to dream about, the other question I have that I struggle with a lot is, and I hear people talk about a lot, is that there are too many platforms doing too many things and they cost too much money. Do you have any thoughts on that and how we fix that problem as an industry? Jessica?
Well, that's one of the things that we were kind of thinking about with Inform. I can't really do a whole lot as far as how much money it costs, but we are trying to integrate as much into our platform as we can. So you're going just to one place to get the information.
Mhm.
Because we know we can't do everything. We can't make the best fall detection and make the best EHR and make all the best of everything. So there are other companies out there that are way smarter than us in those things, but if we could integrate with it, then they can come to Inform and still gain the access of all those other platforms.
Kyle?
Yeah, or I was gonna say even with with collecting data, you know, I mean the EMR or the EHR EMR systems are great for caregivers to go in and do charting throughout the day. But is there some things that they can enter into Inform that they do like every single day that they can just say, oh yeah, I did this, touch this button, and all the information will just automatically get, you know, put in there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
So
would be a
here's
huge time saver.
Yeah. So I'll tell you I got to tell you my big dream because I keep saying this and hoping somebody's going to figure it out because I think it would be. So I have this vision that when every caregiver when they come to work they put on a little sound collecting device, a microphone on their uniform someplace. I'll sort of maybe like this right here. This is actually a microphone that goes with one of my video cameras, and it's like maybe a little bigger than a quarter in terms of diameter, and it's quite a bit thicker than that. And that they also have an earpiece, and I don't know, maybe even they have a body cam, right? I'm not quite sure. And as they get a list of residents that they're going to provide cares for, and as they walk to the next residence room, this little voice comes through their earpiece and says, "Oh, you're about to go to see Mrs. Smith. Here are the things you need to do today. Here's some things you might be talking about to her about because she's really interested in that, and so it'll help you have good conversations. And here's kind of what's been going on with her the last few days." And then as they go through there, I mean, you wouldn't even need a camera, right? The caregiver could be talking and saying, "Okay, Mrs. Smith, we're going to do your bath now," and maybe sort of doing a skin check. And they look at it and say, "Oh, your back looks really good, but there's this one red spot up by your left shoulder that maybe we need." And all this stuff gets captured by AI and it goes into the record. And over time, you build this beautiful profile of people. Residents, families can then go in and see what's going on. The community can take a look at this data. The AI looks for weak signals that you wouldn't be able to see as a human being and says, "Oh, maybe Mrs. Smith, actually, you need to look at nutrition because she's got her skin condition seems to be changing." So what do you think? Is that possible?
So I think that is very possible. I'm not sure though that so I used to be a caregiver, and there were times where I'd have conversations with residents that I'm not sure the resident's family would want to know about. And so there would have to be a way of filtering that information so you kept resident privacy intact. I
Yeah,
would think,
yeah,
to make sure that would work out well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think there's so much opportunity, and my hope is that, so I used to work in the semiconductor industry selling software that was used to design computers. And one of the things that I saw in the time that I was there is there were it's a lot like senior living is to do today, where there are a lot of companies providing a lot of tools. And there's been in that industry, there's been a lot of consolidation so that sort of single platforms that don't do everything, but do a lot more. And so I guess I'm wondering if that'll be the case in senior living. It would probably take another 10 or 15 years to get there. Any thoughts on that? Is that good, bad?
I think it's, you know, one of the things too, that anytime that I go into a senior community, you know, they always ask me, "Oh, can you integrate with our camera system? Can you integrate with this? Can you?" And it's becoming easier and easier as companies are opening up, you know, what's called their APIs, so you can start building in those connectors. And I think along with that, then all of this information that's being shared between these systems can start to develop these like overall pictures of a resident's health. You know, I can think about, you know, one technology that we're looking into that I know uses AI is fall detection, but it's not just detecting whether a person falls or not. It's watching their daily routine. And now when there's a break in that daily routine, what's happening with that person's maybe overall mental status? Why are they all of a sudden changing up their regular routine? And then, the caregivers or families can address that because they've tracked all this information, and AI has basically said, wait a minute, there's something different here that you need to look at.
So are you guys doing fall detection now? Is it on your roadmap?
It is. It definitely is. I actually have one of the sensors in my office. So not only does it do fall detection, but it also like senses people going in and out of the rooms. And it memorizes me, but then the next person that walks in, it knows is not me. So it's going to handle that situation a little bit differently. But there's all these, like I said, there's all this stuff where it's watching how I walk around the room. Do I walk around the room the same way every time? That sort of thing. So it does. And there's a huge amount of data that you can go on to basically the dashboard and look overall about my daily activities and what am I doing. So if Jessie wanted to see how much I was really working, she could.
Yeah. So Jesse, do you have like that installed in everybody's office so
it's only in mine, unfortunately.
You can monitor them?
Yeah, well, so we do have a couple of other options besides the one that we're testing. So that would be a completely full integration. We have a couple of other options that would just detect falls, and we do have that installed all throughout the building, but that doesn't have the sensors to see how hard people are actually working.
So Kyle, the thing is you have to figure out just the right computer games that make it look like you're working, right? But you're having fun.
Yeah, it's like one of those little robot arm things that you can get to like just move your mouse the entire day.
Yeah,
so it looks like you're working.
Yeah, those are always the challenges. So one of the things you've touched on a little bit that I want to come back to, because I think it's so important. And here, as I've been attending sessions at Nick and talking to leaders here, one of the things that really warms my heart is there seemed to be much more conversation about how do you make the job of being a caregiver not just more efficient, because efficiency sounds like you just want to work them harder, but to make the quality of doing it better. So, again, we've talked about you use technology to do that. So do you have thoughts about how we use technology to improve the life of caregivers? And who am I going to start with? Jessica, you look like you have something to say. You've been a caregiver.
So, again, as a former caregiver, as we've developed the system, we're really trying to make it easier for them to do the day-to-day things that just have to get done, but don't really add to the value of like the residents' lives. So all of the charting, we have the reason code so they can put that in. We have voice to text so they don't even have to like type it out. They can just put it into the system. It's very quick and easy. So that way they can actually, most caregivers that I have talked with, they want to spend time with the residents. So it's allowing them to have that more time to spend with the residents, because sometimes it's not just about efficiency. It's not just about how long it took for them to complete a task, but it's actually them sitting with the resident, talking with them. You'll have the residents have amazing stories and they want to tell them. So that's important for the caregivers to be able to sit there and really enjoy their job and listen to those stories.
Yeah, no question about it. Any other thoughts, Kyle, on how you make the caregiver's life better?
Well, yeah, and just, even building off of something that you said, Steve, and what Jessica just said is, there's these presence devices that we can put in rooms that will just, the caregiver just touches their phone up to it and it basically starts tracking how much time that they're in that room, and then they, as they leave too, then it measures that amount of time, how long they actually spent in there. So it's not having to go through and track all that information. It's just something that automatically just happens as soon as they kind of cross into that threshold and then back out again. So it makes tracking that time spent with the resident a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that anything you can do to reduce those chores, and I do know that as I talk to people that charting is one of these very frustrating, you feel like it's really obviously important for communities and organizations, but it's really a pain for the caregivers and the nurses and everybody who has to do that. So anything you can do to make that better is a huge benefit. What else should I be asking you about?
Well, I just was going to mention one other thing as far as like with making the caregivers' lives a little easier is, that everybody uses text messaging on their phone when they're not at work. So we decided to say, hey, well, you use it outside of work, you might as well use it while you're at work too. So all the caregivers can chat with each other. They can send chat messages to like the entire group. The administrators can send messages to the entire care staff too, or to like anybody that's logged into the system. So that's just a really good way for them to communicate with each other where they don't have to go find somebody, and maybe you have to tell your staff on second and third shift something, but they're not logged in right now. So put a message in the system. When they log in, it'll pop up and say, hey, by the way, you need to do this today. So it's just that extra little things that we already do in day-to-day life that you can actually use in this senior living space to make your job easier.
I like that a lot. Okay, I'm gonna use a magic wand here, and I'm gonna wave it over both of you, and we're gonna transport us to the world of senior living 10 years from now, and specifically the world of Cornell technology 10 years from now, without giving away any trade secrets or any brand ideas. What's it going to look like for senior living, and what's it going to look like for Cornell? What role is Cornell going to play in that?
Jesse, you want to tackle that one first?
I'm kind of hoping that so far the nurse call space has been, we have a lot of friendly competitors, and I'm really hoping that continues. So when we go to trade shows and those kinds of places, we'll talk to each other and talk about what's going on and what's happening. So I'm kind of hoping that both Cornell Technologies and all of the senior living space, we kind of continue to move forward. We continue to utilize the technology to make residents' lives better, and we continue to make caregivers' lives easier, so that way they can really just be spending time with residents instead of having to do charting, having to do all of those tasks that don't really have anything to do with making residents and caregivers' lives better.
Terrific. Kyle, any other last thoughts?
Yeah, so as far as like with the AI expanding, for the systems to become more proactive than reactive. So again, monitoring a resident, being able to say, hey, we think that X, Y, and Z may happen to this resident because their health is beginning to degrade. So again, using AI to kind of, be proactive and to try and hopefully catch some of those things before they actually happen.
Yeah, it's interesting as you were saying that. I was thinking about AI. We struggle so much with APIs and integrations and that kind of thing, and I find myself wondering if we will get to the point where somebody will create, maybe this is your next business venture as part of what you're doing at Cornell, some sort of a data hub that's all AI based, where you wouldn't really need the traditional APIs and all the hassle that goes, but it would just suck in all this information from all these different sources and then distribute it back out where it needs to be. I do know that with AI that there are a few senior living companies that are taking data in and using it to create reports for both internal use and for families. But the idea that you could actually get it to talk back out to the systems could be pretty remarkable. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to share that with you for free.
All right.
So we're about out of time. I'd like to spend sort of the last 45 seconds or so having you just talk a little bit about how people find Cornell, how they reach out to you. This is sort of your time to just do a commercial. Jessica?
So I'm really bad at this. One thing I would say is if anybody does have any suggestions, so all of our updates and things that we do are all come from the senior living industry. Kyle talks with our customers. We go to all of these different trade shows, but we don't add anything that we're not being told needs to be added. So if there's any suggestions, we're happy to take those.
Terrific. Kyle, any last words?
Yeah, I mean, go to our website, cornell.com. All the contact information for us is on there. If you want to email us questions, everything, the link is on there for you to be able to email questions to us. And like Jesse said, we love hearing back from our customers. What do you like? What do you not like? What do you want to see? And this helps us develop, the next greatest thing at our company. So we appreciate that.
Great. Kyle, Jessica, thank you very much. I look forward. I guess I'll see you in a few weeks in Las Vegas, is that right? At the
Yes,
ACA InCal
I will be there.
Looking forward to that. Thank you very much. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you for watching. If you're here at Nick, you're probably not watching this. You're probably in session, so you'll watch this later. But I'd love to connect with you. I'm doing a bunch of little short videos. And so thank you very much for watching. Thanks to Jada for producing in the background. And we'll be back on Friday with a great Foresight TV.